What's going on, everybody? So today we're going to be harvesting okra, and we'll also be giving you tips on how to grow successful okra plants. So let's get into it. Now, when it comes to growing okra, I find that okra is a pretty hardy plant, but it tends to grow a lot quicker and produce more the warmer it is. So for me, I'm in zone 5 and I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is in the Midwest. So more times than none, it's going to be cooler than it is going to be warm. But from the middle of May until maybe the beginning of September, you have some pretty warm weather. But I like to start my seedlings inside typically between March and April to kind of get them going. That way, the middle of the middle of May, I could just throw them outside during the warm months. And my okra will continue to produce well into even October as long as major frost doesn't kick in. But okra can take some frost, just not a whole lot of frost. When it comes to okra, they can survive without water for longer periods of time than your usual crops. And it doesn't take a whole lot of water once you do water them. They just keep going. As long as they've got some heat. I like to keep mine well mulched. That way I don't have to, manually water it all the time. I usually kind of let the rain kind of handle that. And again, you want to use mulch if you have a smaller garden. Obviously, if you're on a farm, that's going to be a little bit costly for you. But for me, mulch really helps my reduction of having to water so much. So again, that mulch is going to retain the moisture, and you won't have to really pretty much water it at all. You can depend on whatever rain you get, but if you get into a really tight drought, just feed it a little bit of water and it'll keep going. I've also noticed too that I'm not really big on fertilizers, but if you fertilize okra, it'll really become much more productive for you too. So any of your manures do pretty well. If you're not into using animal products, Miracle Grow works pretty well for it too. When it comes to pests with okra, here in Indiana, I haven't had many issues with pests. The most that I've encountered over the years is ants. For some reason, ants, or at least where I am, ants love the okra plant. So you'll see them, laying their eggs on the plants, creating more colonies on plants. So you just want to keep an eye on that, because if you let them completely take over, they will. I usually have a manual process of just spraying spraying water on it, with the water hose. Have some nice pressure on it, and that usually does the job. And doing that after a few times, they usually stay off and they kind of get the picture. Get your typical cabbage moths, which will leave you with the caterpillars. But normally what they'll do is kind of mess with the leaves. They normally don't really mess with too much more. I mean, they're not really going to mess with your actual okras. so you don't have to typically worry about that. But you know, any of your other pests like your squirrels and mice and you know rabbits, they'll if they can get a hold to them, they will. So um, just keep an eye on that. So I've got some new okra plants growing here. So I'd say, well, today is August the 14th. I'll say maybe by the middle of next month, we'll probably get our first okras popping up on these plants. But if we look here, I've had this plant here since maybe February, and this is pretty high. I actually started this in the garage, so it would even produce well in the garage. I guess some pollinators got in there and did what they needed to do. But yeah, these are the okras I have in buckets. Those are some new ones that I just showed you. And then swinging it around here, this is where I was picking a lot from earlier. I've got 9 plants here. So total, I've got about 15 plants producing for me. Some of these buckets got a few okra plants in them. But you can see the ones I started back in the winter, late winter, I really did a good job of pruning them. But as you can see, they'll start producing back at the bottom and starting their own branches that'll produce even more okra, as you can see here. So it's a pretty productive plants we got here. So that's what I got for you guys today. If you want more information on okra plants or any other crops, just shoot me a message or a comment. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'm out.